Welcome to the December meeting of the Seneca County IDA, followed afterwards by a meeting of the Seneca County EDC. So to start out with, first again, welcome everyone here. First item of the agenda is approval of the IDA meeting minutes of November 4th. Everyone received a copy. Any questions, comments, modifications? Hearing none, could I have a motion to approve?
So moved. I'll second.
Okay. And yeah, we'll do voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? No, motion carried. Second item is the financial statements. Again, kind of go over this a little on the brief side, and if anyone has any questions, and Bob, feel free to jump in on this. A couple of the highlights, as you can see, we're still under for the projected income for this year, but we do expect to close on Keystone and on Lodi Solar by the end of the year.
And possibly Trelina, because they did receive, you may have all seen in the paper recently, their Article 10 siting approval. So we'll be able to move forward with closing on those three projects.
Yeah, so that should be, roughly 170,000 from Keystone, 90 from Lodi Solar, and of course Trelina's
Well over $1 million.
is over $1 million. So again, hopefully we should see that the end of this year, and if not, with Trelina early next year. Couple other items we have here, and go through my notes, is of course, the sewer line. That transfer, I think we beat that up to death. So that is signed and finished, and at the end of the year, when we do the books, we'll consolidate everything and write that off.
That was a November event, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was a November
November,
event. It was early in the month though, so
Mhm.
we'll calculate for the depreciation as of end of October
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing partial month.
All right.
And so, yeah, we'll see that, well, during our January meeting, that'll be done. Same thing, this isn't the EDC meeting, but just because it's all associated with the EDC financials, made the final transfer from to close out the Sampson Veteran Memorial Cemetery account. There's like $4,617 that went back to the EDC. So all that is set. And so then we just look forward to do the final consolidation, and next year the cemetery will be completely off the books.
And that's a year-end adjustment as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is somewhere in the
Mhm.
840,000 range.
That's the number. Yep.
So anything you'd like to add to this, Bob?
No, I think you covered the highlights of importance.
Okay. Any questions from anyone on the board? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the financials?
So moved.
Second? So, voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Next item, items to be disposed of. Any items for this year, Pat? Nothing to be disposed of. Well, that's an easy one.
Next year.
Next year. Let's see. Proposed IDA board meeting schedule for 2022. Everyone received in their package the schedule, which is the typical first Thursday of every month.
Except for March
March because of the report to Paris.
and the audit. Yeah, so that meeting is later in the month.
So really it's more for everyone's information. So please put on your calendar, because I'm sure you don't want to miss any of this. Next item is the grant status report.
Pat, do you want to review that?
Yep. We currently have one grant on the IDA side. It's an Empire State Development Grant. It was originally for $600,000. We did the first reimbursement back in 2019. They were for professional services in marketing. We did the second reimbursement for $177,000 in earlier this year. That was for the strategic plan and the website upgrade and the hillside assessment. And then we currently have $110,713 that we're using for the new industrial park. And the expiration date of the grant is June 30th, 2022. On the EDC side, I will mention that there's one grant that we have with Seneca Dairy Systems, around $600,000 for equipment purchase. And we are in the process of closing out that grant. Hope to have it done by the end of the month.
Okay, good. Any questions or comments from the board on the grants? Not. Move on to the next item is update from the Chamber of Commerce by Jeff Shipley.
Be a little short this month, Steve. Really, One Seneca is probably the most the biggest thing surrounding this board. Anyways, we continue to have those weekly sessions where we get updates. Today's conversation actually was interesting as it relates to broadband. And there's this federal infrastructure grant, as we all know, that or bill that is coming down that has implications on the state for everything from roads and bridges to broadband. And one of the comments from our school districts was, does the county have an audit, if you will, an inventory of where broadband is particularly weak as it relates to residential? And we heard from the county and from the regional planning council that information does not exist right now. But the state does have a survey, an online survey that's open right now and is collecting that data, actively collecting it. So as a One Seneca group, we are really advocating for all of our community to take this survey so we can really hone in on the areas in our community that is lacking from a broadband perspective, whether you can even access it or whether the service is not at broadband speed. So that's something I think you're going to see the One Seneca group move on in the coming year, and we certainly encourage all of our IDA partners to help spread that word and really encourage residential participation in that. So I think that has big consequences or impacts on Seneca County and the work that we're doing.
And you can take the survey actually for your residents and for your business as well. So you take it on your device while you're logged into your existing network. So it'd be great to have data, from both of those standpoints.
Okay. Well, thanks, Jeff. Don Trout is not here. If there's anything that you know of that's highlight from the Board of Supervisors?
No, I know that the county is currently working with Wilkins RV to settle the details in terms of connecting them to water and sewer for that project to move forward across the street from Del Lago. I don't have any further updates than that. But once they come to an agreement, they'll be able to move forward and finish their seeker process with the town of Tyre. And then once that's done, we'll be able to move toward final approval of that project. So that's coming, possibly as soon as January, but we'll keep you all updated. I guess moving on to the annual report, you all received a copy of this in your packets. There was an article actually in the paper today about this. So I won't, read it word for word, but essentially, obviously, last year was a great year for us. We had more projects historically than we've had in the past. We were able to get out and visit more businesses than we have in the past. And this year has been no different. So this year we set a goal at the very beginning of the year that we were going to secure 6 business attraction or expansion projects. I'm proud to say that we have. 1 was for a loan, 4 were for pilots, and then 1 was for a property sale, pilot, and loan. By industry, that's broken down. So 2 were ag projects, 2 were solar projects, 1 was manufacturing, and 1 was retail tourism. And geographically, those projects spanned our county. So they were in the towns of Romulus, Fayette, Lodi, Seneca Falls, Tyre, and Waterloo. And then of the 50 business retention and expansion visits that we've done this year, because there has been an update since I last wrote this report, we got in a couple visits yesterday. 12 have been agriculture companies. 1 was an automotive company, 1 was construction, 1 was business and professional services, another 1 in hospitality, 14 in manufacturing, 1 nonprofit, 1 real estate development company, 3 recreation and tourism, 4 transportation, and 11 winery and craft beverage companies. So been a very strong year, like I said. There's a table here that shows some of our breakdowns for each of our projects. So as you can see, the total capital invested by projects, so this is what they put on their pilot application or on their loan application. This year, these projects brought in a total of over $166 million to our county, which is up 80% from last year, where it was only $33 million. Obviously, that's in large part due to the Trelina project, which is a huge capital investment. That also means that our per project average investment is up from 6.6 million per project to 27.7 million per project, which is a 320% increase over last year. Job creation is also up from last year, but I will note that it is down a little bit from 2019. And that's purely because of the difference that we're seeing in some of these projects. So obviously solar doesn't have a lot of jobs created or retained. It does have a lot of construction jobs, but we haven't measured those here. So from the perspective of jobs created, this year we were up 47 as compared to 44 last year. Jobs retained, up 105 as opposed to 45. So our total jobs created and retained for the year is 152. Exemptions, as you can see, the exemptions per project was a little bit worse last year in the sense that projects are getting more value in exemptions. And again, that's largely in part due to the fact that we had this really large solar project and also the smaller solar project where the exemptions are quite valuable, but just something to be aware of. We're still sort of in the average as far as exemptions per $1 of capital invested. It was 14 cents in 2019 per $1 invested. This year we were at 13 cents per $1. So still in that decent range, but just wanted to point those out to you all. And then as far as our other highlights for the year, so these are things that we identified in the beginning of the year were going to be key strategic projects for us. And I'm pleased to say that we have accomplished basically the entire list except for one thing that we have pushed on to next year, only because timing of approvals. So one was obviously the continued development of our Deer Run Industrial Park. We're under contract with Best Made Products for 2 lots there, which leaves only 2 additional lots remaining for us to sell to companies. We have been working on the ongoing implementation of the strategic plan, especially with the One Seneca group, where we will be presenting the recommendations as far as infrastructure investment projects to the County Board of Supervisors later this month. We have continued our efforts to improve the IDA's visibility in the community. So this one, we actually measured by the increase in news coverage that we've seen this year compared to last year. Last year, We had about 34 news stories about the IDA, and as of when this report was done, there were 41 for us this year. I would like to point out that those are actually a lot more positive than they were last year. So that's also an improvement. Obviously, we've been exploring future industrial park sites with MRB Group and this feasibility study that they're doing for us. We have completed the transfer of operations of the Sampson Veterans Memorial Cemetery. We have completed the transfer of the Route 414 sewer line to the county. We have finalized the transfer for the Army's retained environmental sites at the Army Depot and the transfer for the Sutton Road Airfield deed to the county. So all great things. Looking ahead to next year, as far as our goals, we'd like to stick with the same 6 new projects, 50 business retention and expansion visits. We currently have 11 or 12 pretty strong prospective projects in our pipeline, so I'm confident that we'll see at least some of those come forward and potentially additional ones. And then aside from those metrics, you know, we have laid out a few other strategic improvements we want to take on in the new year. Obviously, the actual selection and acquisition of a new industrial park site and the beginning of financing that and building it out. Strengthening our partnerships, specifically with Greater Rochester Enterprise and Empire State Development as it relates to the industrial park project and their support with that. Obviously, we'll continue to implement the economic development plan with One Seneca, do some website updates. We'd like to finally get our social media presence established, probably via the form of LinkedIn. Obviously, we've all talked about the need to bring on a new hire in the spring, coinciding with Pat's retirement. Improved marketing of our revolving loan fund, especially with the local banks. We will have some board vacancies to fill, so we plan to do that early in the new year with the new County Board of Supervisors members once they're on. And then obviously our ongoing administrative improvements, which some of you already know about. We talked about updating our chart of accounts and some other things that we're going to be taking on in the new year. And then finally, this is the one that was pushed from this year to next year, completion of the Lowe's water main project with the Village of Waterloo.
And the county manager signed the railroad agreement this morning, so we should be able to go up to bid soon.
That's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, so very exciting.
Took a long time.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments?
Thanks. I think, you know, one thing, especially with Bob Kernan here is the other sort of old timer on the board, with the board is, you know, we never really had done goals like this before, Sarah, which is, so at least it gives a good direction where we've been, where we're going, and something kind of help measure with. So definitely a good start and good performance, especially with the pandemic and all the other problems. I think we've had a good year.
Is there one question on the pipeline? I think that's a pretty interesting number. How much visibility do we have on who those are and how likely they are? Is there any reason not to be tracking them by name and by potential volume?
I would just say for confidentiality purposes, because these are projects that are not necessarily official yet. They're still in early stages. Some may be a year or two out, but that is information that we track internally. So we do have, you know, the company names, the breakdown of the industries that they're in. I would say that it's largely representative of our business retention visits and of our community makeup in general. So a lot of them are, you know, manufacturing, ag, and winery largely are the 3 that we see mostly. There are a few solar projects in the pipeline. And the ones that we identify as prospects, so the ones, you know, the 11 that I mentioned, those are projects that are fairly reasonably going to move forward at some point in time. We do have projects that we identify as being on hold. Those were mostly due to COVID. And then we have leads that are a little bit more generic. If somebody says, oh, I might want to do an expansion at some point in time, but I don't really have a sense of what specifically. The only information we don't have as far as these projects is things like, capital budgets, because they're not that far along in the process yet. So we don't have an idea of what the investment would look like or what the job creation would look like. But this is essentially a basis for us to continually revisit these companies and say, okay, are you ready to move forward on things? Where do you stand on this project? What kind of assistance might you need from us?
Any other questions or discussion on this? Okay. Other business. Well, like I say, good news, bad news. Good news for Steve, bad news for us. Steve Wadhams, his term ends at the end of this year, and he's decided not to go and renew for another 6. So I'd like to present him with this plaque for appreciation for his 6 years of service. Would have been nice to have more, but I understand.
Thank you very much.
There's Steve.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, yeah,
It's the least we can do for all the trouble we put you through for 6 years.
yeah.
Now I'll start putting you guys through trouble. I'm on the outside, right?
Yeah. Yeah, now you can come and heckle us at the next meeting.
That's right, that's right. It's been a nice run. I tell you, I really was on the fence post. I told Sarah that I'd give her an answer on whether I was going to stick or not. I think by was it the 1st of October or not? End of
I think
October.
end of October.
Yeah, and I missed that deadline. I think I missed the middle of November, and then finally I just with the business environment we are in the transportation business right now, and our environment with what we're dealing with our driver pool and our constant need to recruit, and the new law that's coming into effect with the 18-year-olds being able to do internships in our industry. That's going to keep us busy. Training once that kicks in February, and we've got a lot of work to do in our industry, and I just don't see where the time's all going to come from. So Sarah and I kind of talked about it too, with maybe some conflicts of interest coming up too. Could be possible. So it may be best that we move on. So yeah, but it's been a good run. Thank you.
It's been wonderful working with you, Steve.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it
Thank
certainly has been. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
I know it's spoke, recently with Rich, your brother a couple of weeks ago, and as one of these, well, at this point in our lives, we're thinking things are starting to maybe coast a little bit and look forward to retirement. And it's just the opposite.
It's not actually working out that way. So.
So with that, there's no other business.
No other business.
So I request a motion to enter into executive session for discussion on the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property where publicity could substantially affect the value thereof, and for a personnel matter, discussion of the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person. So motion,
I'll make a motion.
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. So we're in executive session. Okay, welcome back. I guess first thing we need to do is need a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So motion carried. So now we're out of executive session. I'd like a motion to increase Sarah Davis, our executive director's pay to 94,000 starting January 1st. Could I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Oh, and second? Did you want to second that, Steve?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So what, need a roll call, Kelly, or voice?
Mr. Russo,
Yes.
Mr. Wadums,
Yes,
is Sue on the phone still?
Yes.
Mrs. Transione,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Keim, Mr. Trout, and Mr. Bruce Murray absent. Motion carried.
Then last order of business is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, well, thanks, Steve. Well, thanks, Steve, for everything.
Yep.
You're very welcome.
And thanks, Sue. And what we'll do is we'll done with the IDA, and now we
Jeff
have
for a little bit longer here.
Jeff for EDC, which should be very shortly. So I'll be hanging up. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome. See y'all. If I don't see everybody, have a good Christmas.
You too.
So actually, yeah, EDC portion very brief today. We have the minutes from our last meeting, October 7th. I reviewed them, didn't see any questions or issues. So I guess motion to approve.
Motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. EDC financials. And about the only thing that we have on here, which we talked about during the IDA meeting, is we're done with everything with the cemetery account. And so starting January 1st, we'll just be down to the EDC as the only account, and we'll have
Well,
to do.
there'll be an account consolidation for year end. And then going forward, instead of having two, when I pick two pillars, there'll be one. Yep.
Yeah.
And the actual numbers for the cemetery will be eliminated through consolidation.
So with that, motion to approve the financial statements.
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we met previously, governance committee. We went through all the EDC policies. Or how much you want to.
I'm not really going to say anything about this because the governance committee, which you both are a part of, already met and reviewed the policies and are recommending approval. So now it's just down to formal approval by the full EDC.
So Kelly, roll call for the review of the EDC and approval.
Do we have a motion?
Oh, yes, need a motion to approve. A second?
Mr. Russo,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley.
Yes.
Mr. Keim, absent. Motion carried.
Next is nominations of the 2022 EDC officers. At this point, the governance committee EDC recommended keeping them the same. Myself as chair, Jeff Shipley as vice chair, and Tom Keim as secretary treasurer.
And no action is needed on this at this point. We'll do formal approval in January.
In January. Self-evaluation of the governance committee.
So again, no formal approval is needed of this. You both saw this at the governance committee meeting, but essentially a self-evaluation just gives a brief review from the governance committee to the full EDC board about the actions taken during the year, including the review contracts and the nomination of officers for the year.
Lastly, the contract renewals for professional services. The Germany Burke and Brown and Bob Kernan. Because we had discussed this during our previous IDA meeting.
We discussed this and the IDA approved the IDA portions of those contracts. The governance committee looked at these from the EDC's perspective and was recommending approval of both. So this would be the final EDC board approval. Again, there really isn't a difference in Bob Kernan's contract. There is a slight reduction, I guess, from the EDC perspective. It would be $250 a month instead of $500 a month. And then Germany Burke and Brown offered us, I think it was $100 a month or something. I'm not remembering the specifics, but it was a reduced contract given the reduced activity as a result of the transfer of the cemetery.
So let's have a motion to approve the two contracts for next year.
Motion.
I'll second. So Kelly,
Mr. Russo,
yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Kime absent, motion carried.
Any items to be disposed of?
None.
No? Any other business?
Nope.
So therefore, no executive session either. So motion to adjourn.
I would love to make that motion.
I'd love to second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the EDC meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.